A spectacular performance. Curry from half court. Sometimes, something looks like it's been there a while.
We are here, the 3 Points Podcast, the Three Musketeers. We're back after a little bit of a break. We did miss one weekend, but the reason for that was Christmas break. Where I'm out of town. I'm back at my cousin's place. I don't know for the loyal fans at home. If you recall a couple episodes ago, maybe hovering around the finals time, I was here. Now I'm back in Illinois. Um, while we've been gone, there have been 5 games. We played against the Grizzlies, we played against the Timberwolves, the Pacers, the Lakers, the Clippers, and then the Suns. I think I said 5, I meant 6. In these 6 games, we are 2-4. So we've lost 4. Uh, so not super great. But I think without further ado, I think we should just dive deep into it, talk about Schroder, because we didn't get a chance to talk about him before. Our last episode was talking about the trade. We finally have seen 5 games with him, how we feel, et cetera, et cetera. So actually, before we start diving into the stats and the analysis game per game, how do we feel about Schroeder and the fit in this team? Wesley, I'll target you first for that question.
Sure. I think he had like a pretty rough start. Like I remember the first game he looked awful and I was kind of just like, wow. I mean, it was kind of like a trade you kind of feel good about regardless, but seeing it out there looked pretty bad. But like since that first game when he kind of put up a major dud, I think he had like 0 points. I mean, I don't think anybody scored that game. I think that was the game Steph had like 2 points himself. So yeah, that was a pretty rough showing, I think, all around. But yeah, I mean, since then he's been like not like super good, but like he's been like about what I expected. I didn't expect anything crazy from him, but he's kind of been like a nice ball handler to have alongside Steph, which I like. So
Thomas, yourself?
Yeah, I think he's looked pretty rough. I mean, he's definitely had his highlights. He hit a big three down the stretch a few games ago. I've seen him make some nice passes. But I think it's clear that if the Warriors are going to play him off ball to the degree that they're playing him off ball currently, he's not going to be able to be the best version of himself. He looks so much more natural, so much more comfortable when he's running the pick and roll. But you just in the Warriors offense, you just can't make room for too many Dennis Schroeder pick and rolls. Maybe I'd like to see Kerr let him do that a little bit more, especially when you have Steph, who's like the greatest off ball player of all time. Like Steph can be doing stuff off ball somewhere else while Schroeder runs the pick and roll if you want. I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more of that, but I think generally he's probably gonna be a role player type dude on this team if he's gonna be playing his best. So yeah, I mean,
All right.
you know,
Yeah, I think my 2 cents for how I felt about Schroeder is that I'm kind of chalking this up to an adjustment period. I did not expect much from the get-go. That's why before we dive to the game to game analysis, obviously we got absolutely demolished by the Grizzlies by 50 points or something like that. And he looked atrocious. And I wasn't like overreacting. I was like, look, man, it's his first game. He has a completely different role here to some degree than with the Nets. As Thomas pointed out beautifully, he has to play a lot more off ball. And obviously, he's just so much more natural on ball. You could see him pointing plays out, directing people where to go, finding guys, doing good dishes, stuff like that. So I'm still chalking up to an adjustment period. I have also seen a lot of things that I have liked a lot. And as we go game by game, hopefully we can kind of point out, and I could point out what I did. So what I did like. So starting on the 19th, 10 days ago, we played against the Grizzlies. Already kind of, I'll just kind of take it. We kind of already highlighted it. Not much to talk about from our end. We were abysmal. Probably Steph's worst game. It's his only game where he did not make a field goal in his career. Really, really bad. The Grizzlies were just making their shots. They could not miss. It was like dagger after dagger. It was like soul piercing. The Grizzlies were 54% from the field and 56.3 from the three. And like I said,
better
if
from
not the worst. Sorry, can you repeat that,
better
Wes?
from the 3 point line than the field goal percent.
Yeah,
Man, that
literally. They were just shooting lights out. It was genuinely like I
awful.
was like, oh my God, it was so bad. It was really bad. But no one played well. And I mean, there's just nothing more to it. It was just a horrible game. You guys, open floor.
I mean, yeah, no one played well, and yeah, like you said, nobody played well, and we sucked, and we got fucking blown out. It's kind of tough that was Schroeder's first game because, like, narratively, I feel like that's a bad omen. But you know, other than that, yeah, there's not much more to say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too
West.
much more to add, but I wasn't like too surprised about like if other guys around Shooter are not playing well, then he just himself is not gonna have a good game naturally. So it's not I'm not gonna hang that too much on his head. Like I think the games since then have been more indicative of like what he's gonna be with us. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think it was funny because like in the highlights, all the comments were like, it was just so great to see. Oh man, Shooter was saying he's going to a winning team and then he got blown out by 50 points. It's like, bro, everyone, and just shut up, bro. Everyone is so happy. Like non-Warriors fans are happy for us to suffer because obviously, right? I mean, over a span of 9 years, we won 4 rings. We were the villains at one point, right? So everyone's just sitting around enjoying while we suffer. But absolutely, it was a horrible game. Nothing much to it. I think we just got to move on. Then on the 21st, 2 days later, we played against the Timberwolves. How do we feel about this one? I unfortunately was not able to watch this match. Like I said, I'm in Illinois. We had family over. But I did watch the highlights, look into the stats and stuff a little bit. So why not Thomas and Wes, you guys who watched the match, take it over?
Let me see. And so you can go, Thomas.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, big thing that I remember from this game was Steph hitting some shots down the stretch, which was nice to see. Obviously, we got a win, which is also even better to see. But the way in which we got it with Steph hitting those shots, that's it's kind of what we're gonna need to have happen like every game if we want to win, basically. At least as the roster stands right now. So that was fun to watch. And then also uh, Julius Randle played like absolute garbage down the stretch. I also remember that, but I mean that's not really related to our team, but you know somebody called it. Yeah, but other than that, not much else to say.
Tom, Wes.
Yeah, I mean this is one of the few games Steph had like a pretty like superstar performance. Like not many guys, not like the guys around him didn't play that well, but there was much of a scoring punch around him, so he kind of had to put in like a 30 plus point performance, which is kind of rare this season, I think. So and it was kind of useful, obviously, to get a good win on the road. But yeah, I mean, the Timberwolves, I mean, we saw it on the Christmas Day game. Hopefully, we all watched it. Like, they're just so incredibly bad. Like, fully healthy, and the Mavericks were without Luca and like Kyrie damn near by himself. Like, came back on them. They're so bad. The offensive
Yeah.
situation around Ant. So
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. That's why you look at them in the standings, look at us in the standings. Neither of us are super high. So it's two struggling teams facing off each other. Still good to get the dub, but nothing that crazy. You know what I mean? Nothing like, oh man, what a win. It's kind of like, come on, guys. We need these wins if we want to salvage the season for anything. A couple things I didn't know while going over the highlights and looking at the stats. TJD, and this kind of has shown up in other games after this has been playing a lot more aggressive. He's attacking the rim a little bit. Like he attacked Gobert, I think, like once or twice, at least in the highlight reel they showed. Um, that's been really nice to see. And Dennis Schroeder struggled this game as well. He only had not only 9 points, that's all right, I guess, but more about his efficiency 0 for 4 from downtown and 3 for 8 from the field. Other than that, pretty generic from everyone else. Brandon Podziemski kind of had a good game, 12 points. He was hitting his threes a little bit, 2 for 3. You love to see it. So, and kind of noting because we've been very critical on Pods and Kuminga, right? Because like we said, we've kind of narrowed down them two as a lot of the struggles in this season. Them not playing at least to last season's par, or and kind of taking a step back. Podziemski has kind of found his shot again. Over the last 6 games, he's averaged about 7 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists on decent efficiency. Field goal, he's been 46, but from the three, he's been 58.3%. So that's been good. That has been a good thing from him. He hasn't been shooting a super high volume, but he's kind of found his shot back a little bit. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. In the beginning of the season, he was like damn near like 15%, 20%, something like that, something
Oh yeah,
abysmal from the
yeah,
three. Yeah. So that's good to see. Um,
yeah.
so that was kind of the Timberwolves. Nothing crazy. It was good win. Steph played well, and the Timberwolves kind of suck in general. So Then we went to the Pacers. None of us three were able to watch this game, unfortunately. So we had to watch the highlights, kind of look at the stats. You know, it's that Christmas time. It's that spending time with the family. Um, this was another bad game by Steph, unfortunately. 10 points, 2 for 13 from downtown. So I'm gonna pose, I guess my question, logical question would be is how do we feel like is this kind of gonna be a thing for Steph now? Do we feel like we kind of have to be kind of accept the fact that every once like what like in a span of 3 games he had 2 games that were really bad. Do we just kind of have to accept that in a handful of games he's going to be really bad?
I mean, yeah, dude, he's 36. Like, yeah, it's just gonna. That's one thing you notice a lot with older players is that it's not necessarily that their peak, declines all that much. Like what they can give you at their best declines all that much. It's the consistency. It's the ability to play big minutes. It's the ability to carry an offense. It's the ability to just. It's the energy, the stamina. Like you just can't do it night in, night out. I mean, you see the same thing with LeBron. Like LeBron every 3 or 4 games he'll put up like a vintage like 31, 11, and 10. But the other 3 games, it's like, okay, it's 22, 6, and 6, which is like fine, but like compared to his peak, like he was just doing the 31-point game every night. So it's like that's just what happens with these guys. They at their best, they're still 90% of what they were, but they're not gonna be able to be at their best every night. And then the older he gets, the worse it's gonna be probably. And again, I mean, just it's argument number 100, right, for why we should have somebody else who can carry the scoring load next to him. But, you know, we don't. So,
Wes, anything to add to that?
I think that's a good point, and that kind of articulates well, kind of like thought process. It's like he's just like older now, and it's harder to do it on a consistent basis. I mean, you see all these like young guys around the league that are able to do it, like Luca, and pretty consistently they're able to, even though their teams are like not as bad as the Warriors, they're like, I mean, the Timberwolves case, like the offensive situation is kind of as bad as the Warriors, and is still able to like shoulder that offensive load pretty consistently. So yeah.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate the frequency and the of his kind of greatness is decreasing. After the other than Steph having a poor game, it was a start of a couple of good games by Jonathan Kuminga. He had scored 26 points. He was 9 for 16 from the field, and Kuminga over the last 6 games has been around 24 points, 7.4 rebounds, and 3 assists. So he has taking it up a notch. One of those games, Steph was not there against the Clippers, if I'm not mistaken, but against the Suns last night, against the Pacers, and another game he kind of popped off. Um, I'm not, I can't. Oh yeah, and then against the Clippers, he popped off. So if and this is it's kind of like repeating the same thing, kind of beating a dead horse. If Kaminga could have consistently performed at this level, not it doesn't have to be 24 point, but even like 21 points, which we saw for a little bit last season, where we were like, man, I believe after the All-Star break, where we kind of had a string of wins, and we were on a win streak, and we were like, man, this is looking good. Kaminga was playing at this level, right? Um, how long at this point? It's unrealistic to be like, oh man, maybe Kaminga could keep this up. I kind of doubt it, but the one thing I will say, which is kind of giving me a little bit of hope, is that he's doing this alongside Steph as well. Where last season, or at least earlier this season, he had like his career high when Steph wasn't on the court. So the question was like, oh man, maybe Steph and him cannot perform well alongside each other, but maybe this slightly regressive version of Steph could pair well or gel well with Kaminga, as we've seen against the Suns and against the Pacers. Against some other things against the Pacers were overall the Pacers all played really well. They had 7 players with 10 plus points, and they killed us on the transition. They scored 26 points on the transition as compared to our 10. So our transition defense was really weak, unfortunately. Anything else we want to add on this game? We good to go to the next? All right, now kind of to the 3 games that we all watched. The Warriors against the Lakers on the 25th, Christmas Day. It was an absolute gutting loss. I'll pass the rock to Thomas. You could take it from here. I've been talking a lot on the Pacers. I want to give you guys a chance.
in, I mean, it's always fucking terrible to lose to the Lakers. It always sucks to lose to LeBron. Like just from a moral standpoint, you just don't want to have that happen. Uh, Steph went off on Christmas, which was nice to see. It was, I mean, the media got to do their like, oh, Steph versus LeBron narrative thing, which is cool. It's fun to see, and it's clear that even like they're both 30, there's 36 and 39 or whatever. It's been like 7 years since they were playing in the finals. They're still the biggest draws in the NBA, which is also cool to see. As shout out Steph. But outside of Steph, nobody really played all that well. I think Wiggins had a decent game. Schroder had another meh performance. The Warriors defense, which has been so phenomenal this year, for their standards, kind of a weak game. They gave up 115. There were, I wouldn't say it was like they were giving up a ton of open shots. I remember a few looks that I thought, especially Austin Reeves, I remember getting a few looks that I thought he shouldn't have been getting. But there was nothing. Well, okay, well, I'll get to that, Wes. I see you reacting. Uh, but there was nothing like throughout the entire course of the game. There's nothing too egregious. The big, heartbreaking, just absolutely gut-wrenching uh, possession obviously came towards the end. Andrew Wiggins is left on an island with Austin Reeves, and I don't really even know what happened. He just kind of is like he's playing him off. He's like playing him to drive to the baseline. It's almost like he's giving him the baseline, but Kuminga, who would be the help man, is like completely distracted and not paying attention at all. And so Reeves just drives right by him to the cup for an easy layup for the game. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like you just can't let that happen. If you're if he's in that situation, he has to know that he has to play off and try to coax Reeves into that three. You cannot be playing that far up. You cannot be conceding the drive because you want the shot to be as far from the basket as possible. It was a horrible ending because it almost looked for a second like the Warriors were gonna because they were down by like 10 at one point in that fourth quarter, and then they kind of hit a flurry of shots and came back in like the last few minutes, and then they just gave it all up, and it was sad. So yeah,
Yeah, I think a big part of the defensive breakdown was like LeBron doing his like classic like driving kick. He got us with like Rui, like driving kick to Rui, driving kick to Austin, driving kick to Dalton Connect. I don't know if he probably played a bit, but yeah, those are just kind of like classic LeBron breaking us down. And it's kind of surprising because I do think we have like pretty solid defenders for him, like as good as you can. Like Andrew Wiggins is kind of like perfect for guys like him and Luca who are just like big freight trains that can dish because you want to defend those guys one on one as much as possible. Kuminga did a pretty good job, I guess. I mean, obviously that last possession was pretty like sticks out, but I don't know. It was a good duel, and I don't know. It's kind of crazy that we lost like just LeBron and a bunch of nobodies because AD went out with like his ankle sprain
he
when
was he was out. Yeah,
Yeah,
classic AD.
shocker.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there was
yeah,
one
it was a
possession I
tough
remember
loss.
specifically. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Thomas.
No, I was just saying there's one possession really quick that I remember specifically. We gave them three threes in a row, and they were all basically open. And they missed the first two, and then finally Roy hit the third one. And that's the kind of stuff that's just gonna it's gonna kill you.
Because he's not a good three-point shooter. Like or he's like
Yeah,
kind of like Kuminga. You just like I mean, you don't want him to shoot it, but like it's not the worst shot ever. But like if you're leaving him wide open, then it suddenly becomes like a pretty solid shot.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I think to add on to what you guys have been saying, overall for the game. So one thing I first want to note out was that Rui Hachimura had this season. He's been pretty good from three. He's been 45.2%. So, not to toot your horn, I thought the same thing, and then I just did a quick search. He's been doing pretty decent from three. So it just kind of makes us look worse as the Warriors that we're leaving a good 3-point shooter open from three. And as for the Lakers game, it was a close game all around in all stats, right? We had similar shooting, field goal percentages, rebounds, points, etc. But what was a critical difference? Something that we've been struggling with all season: free throws. The Lakers were 100% from the line, and 100% from like how many? Well, what was the volume? They shot 18 free throws and they made every single one. That's a huge difference. The Warriors, we were 76.5%. We made 13 out of 17. Those four extra misses we made, that's our game. That's our game right there. Where you make those shots, we get extra points. The Lakers hit every shot. That's a big deal. That's how you win games. Across the board, we had same stats except for the free throw difference, right? And Guess where we rank in free throws for the season? Dead last. We're 30th in the league right now for free throw percentage. That's horrible. It's one of those stats where my cousins. I've been watching the games when they've been watching with me. They're not sports fans by any means, but even to them, we were talking. They're like, man, if you're a professional athlete, what is stopping you from being a at least a decent free throw shooter? You just have to sit there and shoot a shot. You got to practice it. You just got to sit there and practice. Even to a non-sports fan, you're like, I mean, you just got to hit that. So it's been really bad. That's just really, really bad. That's not acceptable. And obviously, there's a billion factors to a game, but hey, that's a huge factor. It's those four misses we made and them hitting every single one of their free throws is huge. It's huge. Um, it's just really bad. And like everyone else said, just classic Steph versus LeBron. LeBron with 31 points, Steph with 38. LeBron's turning 40 years old tomorrow. He's been in the NBA ever since I've been born. It's kind of crazy. Um, After this game, after this gutting loss, you'd hope the Warriors would bounce back and get a good win. No, we played against the Clippers. We were in LA, and they also beat us. But this time it's not as bad because Steph and Dre both did not play, so I kind of expect us to lose regardless. But a couple good things that we did see was Kuminga. He was balling, 34 points, tied his career high, 11 for 19. Um, Abysmal 3-point percentage and field goal. We were 18.4% from the three. Oh my God, that is bad. And then from the field, we were 36.8%. A bad game by Wiggins as well, unfortunately. Maybe if he plays well, we kind of steal this win because Kuminga had 34. Wiggins throws a 15, 16-point game. We could have won. How did you guys feel about this game? Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, watching it live is, I mean, you just mentioned the 3-point numbers. That's the only thing I really noticed. Like, because I have to admit, I was not kind of half tuned in because I was kind of already chalking it up to be a loss because without Steph and Draymond, I mean, let's face it, like, this is like this team would be like 2-80 if we played a whole season without Steph and Draymond. But, I mean, it was competitive, but then when I was watching it, the one thing I just kept noticing is, holy shit, we just keep breaking threes. Like, and it was everybody. You said, okay, like we shot what, like 18%, whatever. I mean, everybody chipped in. So listen, you have Buddy Hield, he's 1 for 6. Schroder put up an 0 for 6. You got Lindy Waters putting up an 0 for 6. You got Moses Moody putting up a 1 for 5. Pods actually, shout out Pods, hit 2 for 5. That's 40%. That's passing. That's passing grade in the NBA. But basically everybody else was below par from three. And in the modern NBA, like when every game is to a certain degree, it's kind of just a big math problem where you got to hit a certain percentage of threes or you're not because everybody takes so many. You got to hit a certain percentage or you're going to be out. Like that, we failed the test. You can't win games shooting 18%, especially when you don't have Steph and Draymond out. The fact this was even a 10-point game is kind of shocking to me. Yeah.
I mean, West. Oh my God.
I mean,
West, go ahead.
I realized I don't think I watched this game except the fourth quarter because I was at my sister's game, but I was box score watching because I don't know, I was kind of curious like what was going to be going on because I knew Steph and Dre were going to be out, and then the Clippers have kind of owned us all season. Like I think this is their third time playing us, and they're 3-0 against us. So I was kind of like Thomas said, chalking up to a loss. Kind of just I was kind of curious like what Kuminga was going to be able to do like without a lot of ball time. I was assuming he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot, and he didn't disappoint. I mean, like not getting completely blown out and then putting up like a solid scoring punch yourself, like that's pretty solid. I think Wiggins, like I mean, this is like one of his worst games, but I've kind of liked what he's been doing all season. Like he's Mr. Consistent. Like it's kind of good that we're not talking about him a lot because that means he's not doing anything like abysmal. Like even when he doesn't put up like a good scoring punch, like against the Lakers, he was the number one guy guarding LeBron because that's what he's good at. And I mean, defense is kind of a consistent thing. Like as long as you put that in, your positive effort's going to be felt pretty much regardless of what you do on the other end. And then Wiggins has just been pretty solid on the offensive end. So he's kind of been like my favorite guy all season, just consistently pretty solid. But, I mean, like Thomas said, it's kind of going to be a loss regardless of what we do.
Yeah. I This is one of the games I was like locked in. the area where my cousins live, they're about 2 hours away from Chicago, so we had to drop some relatives to the O'Hare Airport. So when we were driving back, the game was on. So I just had it on my phone, and we were just all watching. All my cousins, everyone was just on watching my phone. Um, it was a fun game. I really have to give credit to the guys without Steph, without Dre. They made it competitive, and it seemed like, hey, we're in this. Maybe we could win, which is all you could really ask for, right? Other than that, I don't think I have anything else to say. So the last game of the 6 game stretch was against the Suns, and we ended off this stretch with a good win. It was a fun game. Steph and Dre were both back. However, horrible 3-point percentages from like everyone, both teams involved. We were 26.7%. They were 25.7%. Just horrible. And it kind of worked out for us because it just kind of canceled out. Um, Generally, if one team shoots abysmal from three, the team that shoots decent or average will win that game. Um, we kind of cancel each other out. And as for players on our team, thing I noticed the most was Buddy Hield with an absolute awful game. Probably his worst game of the season, 0 points, over 7 from downtown. There was a Twitter clip that Thomas even sent in the chat where Dre's just yelling at him like, "Yo, dude, just sit down or play. Just do something." You know what I mean? If you're not playing well, just sit out. Don't hurt the team. Um, but shooters are going to shoot, right? You can't really blame them for shooting. But unfortunately, he kind of fell back to earth. He's been averaging, as for the last 5 games, 7 points. Pretty bad. Pretty
Sounds
bad.
pretty high, honestly.
I mean, as compared to what he was doing in the beginning of the season, which everyone knew he was going to fall back to earth. That's the Buddy Hield cycle. You still want like 10 to 13 points, right? Although to be fair to him, in the last 10 games, he's been about 10 points per game, which is solid, but he's not been looking pretty. There were some huge defensive plays. Dre locked KD up on the last possession where they had another chance. Steph hit some big shots. Kuminga hit some big free throws. Oh my God. That just kind of reminded me, I've been like trashing our team's free throw shooting, but hey, when we needed it that game, he was ice. He hit, I think, like 3 for 4 in the last 4 free throws where we needed them. We absolutely needed them. Otherwise, I mean, we lose that, I think, if he doesn't hit those free throws. So, other than that, I don't remember anything super crazy. I think it was a Steph with a kind of an accustomed Steph game, 22 points. But Kuminga was that number one guy that game. He played really well. Schroder had some big plays as well, I believe. Can't remember anything off the top of my head. But yeah,
Schroeder
I
hit
think
a
that's kind of
Schroeder hit a huge three like with a minute left
Oh
I
yeah.
think that was
down the
against the
stretch.
Lakers, no? Wasn't that
No, that was
No,
against the
he did.
Lakers?
He's done that twice now. Yeah,
oh shit.
yeah,
There you go. I mean, so that's kind of what we need him for, right? Although he didn't have, I think he was like 1 for 7 from three. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
he was literally 1 for 7, and he hit that three. He was 0 for
yeah.
6, then he hit that big three. He was 1 for 7. That's kind of what you need him for. So shout out him for when it kind of mattered. He hit that huge shot. Um, Open floor, Wes. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting. Like Kuminga's had the kind of like you said earlier in the episode, like Kuminga's had these pretty good scoring games, but it's been without Steph or Dre. So it's kind of like how well do they really mesh? But this game they put it all together, kind of like Steph. Obviously, like you said, he didn't have his best game. Like I mean, it wasn't like a bad game, but it was just like his own. He wasn't really able to impose himself. But that was where Kuminga came in and kind of like you said, hit those critical free throws at the end and was pretty consistently like out in transition and also hitting his mid range at a pretty solid clip. But I wanted to note, like, more importantly, like this game defensively, he took on the KD responsibility. I mean, except for that last possession, I guess Dre took it, but Dre just loves guarding KD, I guess. But I think like for the most part, the entire game, Kuminga was like taking on KD, and that kind of allowed Andrew Wiggins to kind of like guard, I want to say Bradley Beal, which is kind of their other solid punch on that bench without Devin Booker, of course. But I was just kind of is proud of Kuminga had a pretty well all around pretty solid game, like hitting his free throws, which has been a weakness of his, and then guarding the other team's best player, which is like his defense or lack thereof, has been kind of another critique of him, like his attention to detail on that kind of thing. But KD really like even at his old age, he kind of asks you to like you have to pay attention to like what he does because he's a 7 footer that can move off ball and has all these arrays of moves. So you kind of have to, and he's undersized against KD, I want to say. So you do have to like really log in and like disrupt his base as much as possible when he's putting up a midi. But he did a really solid job. I think this is one of Kuminga's best games because he put it all together around the entire team, like in a cohesive effort. He played really well and like kind of just addressed all his negative attributes that we've kind of been talking about. But let's see if he can like put it together in like a solid stretch, I guess. But good game.
Thomas, that leaves you.
Yeah, I mean, like this was maybe my favorite game of the whole season. I almost want to say because like there were just a lot of different things going on that were fun to watch. So first off, Warriors are down like 8 or 9 coming into the maybe not coming into the fourth quarter, but like towards the beginning of the fourth quarter.
We won the
Yeah, they
fourth
end
by
up
10. We only won by 4, so we were down
yeah,
by
yeah, yeah. Yeah, there was a point at which we were down by 9, and then we walked them all the way down in like the last 8 minutes. You absolutely love to see that because I feel like multiple times the Warriors this season have kept a game close for the entire game and then just completely fumbled it away in the fourth quarter. And by the end of the game, it's like a 10-point game, and you never know that it was even close to begin with. So that was nice to see. Second, not only did Kuminga hit the 2 free throws down the stretch, which were huge, but Schroder also hit 2 of his own. I think in total, the Warriors had their last 6 shots were all free throws. They hit 5 of them. I mean, you'd love to be perfect. That's a huge improvement based on what we've seen at points this season. And then, I mean, Kuminga, like, it wasn't just, I mean, yeah, like the box score obviously speaks for itself, but like you watch that game, Kuminga looks so aggressive and assertive in a way that he just hadn't like the last month of this season. I don't know like what switch he flipped, but just the drives look so much more targeted, I guess if that makes sense. Like it looks like he knows where he's going for the first time in a while. Because so often earlier this season they just looked, wild and untargeted. I don't know. Yeah, it's a stupid word to use. I don't know how exactly to describe it, but you guys know
4.
what I'm talking about. Yeah, he just looks like he knows what he's doing. He looks like he has a plan when he puts the ball on the floor and hits the basket. And that's what you need to see from him. And if he can just keep it up, if he can just part of me worries that it's, because these 2 games they came against Zubac and Nurkic were both weak rim protectors, generally speaking, at least compared to some of the other elite guys around the league. So it could just partly be that he's just attacking teams that don't have particularly great rim defense. But hopefully it's not. Hopefully he's actually turned a corner. I mean, 34 back to back is ridiculous. I mean, this we just got to take a moment to appreciate 34 back to back for a guy that's not named Steph on this team is incredible. Like that's better than we got all of last season, I think. So shout out him. Hopefully he keeps it up.
Yeah, you actually made I mean, like, although like in my brain I knew that back to back he scored 34 points, but kind of realizing, hey, back to back he had 30 plus point games in the first for the first time in his career. That's huge. That's actually huge. Um, but honestly, if I'm being honest, I just don't see this being consistent. It's I don't want to be like a negative Nancy and be like, oh, it's just whatever, it's a fluke, and oh, it's weaker in protectors. I just don't see it being consistent. Coming up, please prove me wrong. Please do prove me wrong. Keep it up. One thing I wanted to note, you guys are done with the talking about this game.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
One thing I wanted to note is that unfortunately, someone who has been also not also because well, Buddy Hield has been struggling, Schroeder has been struggling. Another person who's been struggling has been Moody. Um, he's been averaging 5 points, 1 rebound, point 0.8 steals in the last 5 games. But the points are not that big of a deal. It's the efficiency, 28.6 from the field and 22 from the three. That's poor. You're our shooter. You are our role playing 3 and D guy, kind of. So you gotta be more efficient. You really gotta increase that and improve that. So hopefully, he kind of picks it up. Um, how are we feeling right now in the trade market? So Kaminga's been boosting it up. Pods has improved his performance a little bit too. Um, how are we feeling? Are we still feeling like ship Kaminga and Pods off ASAP?
I mean, it depends what our goal is. Like, I think they are boosting their value, which is like, I mean, at least Kuminga boosting his value tremendously. So it's kind of that kind of bodes well for making a good trade. But I think like regardless, like either he's boosting his value for a really good trade or he's just becoming this good. So it's kind of like a win-win situation regardless. But I think I think like Thomas like pointed out, we kind of thought we were going to be able to make a Jimmy Butler trade without getting rid of Wiggins, for example. But we kind of, if we do a Kuminga trade, it would have to be for like some solid role players, which I'm honestly more in favor of. I feel like a Jimmy Butler trade, like there's no guarantee he's going to be healthy. Plus, you're giving up Wiggins anyway, so it's kind of like how much of a net positive really is that if he's not even healthy in the playoffs, or even if he is, it's gonna. So.
Also, just to add, Pat Riley officially came out and said they're not trading Jimmy Butler. So he could be lying, but he never says anything. He's like one of those guys like you never hear him give statements to the media. So the fact he came out and said that, I think it's true. I don't think they're going to trade him.
Or Zach LaVine, who's like the other guy that's in the market, but like we'd have to give up Wiggins, so it's kind of like also how much of it.
I
So.
mean, yeah, I just straight up, if it was like even not counting money, not including money into the equation, I just wouldn't trade Wiggins for Levine straight up. I just wouldn't. I
Yeah, our
wouldn't do that.
defense would collapse. Our defense would literally
Yeah,
collapse. It would be horrible. We lose our best, probably our best on ball defender because Draymond cannot on ball defend. His whole thing is he's a zone dude. He's able to cover two guys at the same time because of that sole reason. We lose Wiggins. Levine's a horrible defender. So
yeah,
that would
yeah.
be
He
that would
really
be that would be
is.
bad. I really hope Dunleavy doesn't do anything stupid like that. But I think where I am right now is that look, man, you kind of do have to buy into the Steph, right? Because I just don't. It's just so hard to tell with the future, right? Like you couldn't predict Steph, right? When Steph was young, so you can't predict anything for anyone for all practical purposes. But just probability wise, you're not going to really get another top 10 player of all time. You're not going to get a top guard in the league. Steph is still a top guard in the league. Definitely not number one. I wouldn't even say number two, maybe third now with like what Luca, and then Shea, yeah, and then probably Steph. Just off the top of my head, don't kill me if I'm wrong. Um,
Those in
but
the
Sounds about right, honestly. Yeah.
don't kill us in the comments. Don't, man. I've been getting tweeted at, man. Just stop tweeting at me, man. So yeah, so I think we got to buy in personally. So let's see what the market has available. It's looking like a pretty rough market again, like last season. Um, it's a tough job market, tough NBA market. It's a tough time all around. So I think there's nothing more to it. We're gonna catch you guys after we're gonna play against the Cavs tomorrow. We're against the Sixers on Thursday, and then the Grizzlies on Saturday. So probably, and then the Kings on Sunday. So probably we'll record either on Friday or Saturday or Sunday. So we'll catch you guys around then. Um, let's hope we can continue this momentum, beat the Cavs. That'd be huge. Sixers, I believe George and Embiid are back, right? They're healthy. They're playing.
late on
They're
Christmas.
healthy. Well, Embiid's been like in and out of the lineup like 6 times this season.
Yeah.
He
Okay.
uh he had a sinus fracture at one point, which is, I mean,
We
it's like
signed
Anthony
him.
Davis levels of
Is that just like he has a
ridiculousness.
sniffle? He has a sniffle?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys that just seems to get things like that. But anyways, he most likely he'll be playing, but you never know with him.
Yeah, I think regardless, the next four games we have are tough games, right? So Cavs, probably Sixers, hopefully Embiid and or hopefully they're not there so we can win because we freaking need wins. Then the Grizzlies, we could get our get back. We could get that win. They are our rivals. They do hate us. We hate them. And then the Kings on Sunday, another tough game. So hopefully we could exit this four-game stretch 4-0. I doubt it, but 3-1 would be nice. At least 2 for 2, at least. So we'll catch you guys next time.